starting to feel kind of ready here. I had a voiceover coaching session right up until basically air time, so to speak. So I'm a little behind my time. That's not uncommon, though, actually. But it does remind me of my broadcast days, and actually that subject will come up today as we talk about a subject that maybe is not given as much attention as it ought to, but it certainly is something we ought to think about and consider, and not just take for granted or assume. This is something that you can make a decision about. It's true with a lot of different parts of voiceover. There are truisms out there. There are things that can be true, that can be practical and good advice, but don't make the assumption that it has to be true for you. It depends on your situation, your needs, and your voice, and a lot of things. So today we're going to be talking about pop filters. Do I need to use a pop filter? Let's talk about what a pop filter is first off. This is a microphone. It's a little tough to get it into the picture. I'm going to actually swing this over a little bit here for today's adventure. So here is my mic. It is a Neumann, typically used kind of like this. A lot of people will have their mic this way. The problem I have with that approach is it makes me cross-eyed. It's right in the field of vision. If I have my copy behind it, where is my eye going to focus? Okay, so what I prefer to do is to swing my mic around like this, okay, like that, sideways. Just remember, this is a side address mic. If we look at it like that, it's hard to get all this in. If you look through it, you can see something that looks a little like a lollipop there inside the mic. And most voiceover mics these days have got that. It's a condenser mic. It's side address, so the sound needs to come into the side of it, not from the end or the top, depending on how you think of it, but from the side, and not from the back side. It'll usually be the side that has a logo, like right here. Okay, so this is my microphone, and rather than having it vertically oriented this way, which is very common, I turn mine to a 90-degree position like that, and then I actually tilt it up just slightly, and then positioning it with my head, it is below my chin. It is below my chin and pointing slightly upwards. Now, because it's in that position, it's completely out of my way. My field of vision forward is not obstructed at all. I could hold copy if I wanted to read copy that way, or in my own case, I use a computer monitor, and so I'm reading off of the monitor. But there's no obstruction there. We'll talk more about the positioning of the mic and about the pop filter element of it in a little bit. Maybe I'll just kind of leave this here for today. And so forgive me if I'm not looking right into the camera, because it's going to be more practical not to, I guess, in this case. Hello to Mark and Jay and Pete. Great to have you today, and all the ships at sea. This does remind me of, coming up on a broadcast schedule. It's the top of the hour. You better be there or there's going to be dead air. So I love the idea of actually having to have a broadcast schedule and to stick with it. Live is a different beast, isn't it, than pre-recording something. So closest I've done to broadcast in years. Anyway, let's do a little broadcast talk to start with here. I was in radio for 20 years, and during those 20 years, we used dynamic mics a lot. Dynamic mics can pick up pops just like any other mic can, but because they are end address rather than side address, it's possible for you to position the mic to get that, to resolve some of that problem like this. Okay, we're turning the mic sideways, and then when I talk, I would talk past the mic like this, and it's picking up off the end. Okay, so by talking past the mic, none of the breath goes into the mic, but because in broadcast with a dynamic mic you can be very tight on it, and you actually get a nice kind of a proximity effect, a little extra boom, which is good in radio. A lot of people would almost have their mouth on the microphone as they're talking, but there's no popping that's going to happen. So generally, pop filters were not really a requisite at radio stations. For that reason, I didn't enter into this with an expectation that I would have to have a pop filter. All right. So, but there were pop filters on some of the microphones that I used. There was one particular Shure mic that looked like a vitamin capsule, and the whole front half of it was pop filter. It was really a cool looking microphone, actually. And I think that the old RCA A77s or whatever, they had a pop filter inside of the mesh. It was built in. So you're not going to get rid of that one, but then again, it's not going to be in your field of vision either. Here's an interesting kind of a pop filter, and it's more for use outside, outdoors, and it's on shotgun microphones. That's why it looks so long like this. This was used to cover up the shotgun mic to keep wind from blowing into it. So it was used in television broadcasting a lot. That's an interesting looking one, isn't it? Reminds me of a Tribble from Star Trek. Then there were these. These actually, you see there, that is a dynamic mic, and it has basically the olive looking, it kind of looks like a pitted olive there, doesn't it? And those work reasonably well. They help, and they can also help outdoors with wind and that part of it as well. And I love the fact that these kind of mic shields can also be configured with printing on them and things like that. Here's one that is used a lot in studios. I call that the lollipop. Okay, so and it's big. I mean, consider the size of the mic. It's big. It's like this. It's the size of a pancake. The problem I have with this approach, and it's not a criticism of anybody that's using it, but in my own case, it is heinously obstructive to the view, and you have to almost kind of look past it, and so, if it is right in your face like that, I go totally cross-eyed on one of these things. I have a real problem with it. So if I'm in studios, sometimes I have to try and, beg, borrow, and plead to relocate it or position it so that it's kind of out of my field of vision, because otherwise it's very hard for me to look past this big barrier and to actually be able to see where you're going. Hello, Thomas. Hello, Pat. Who else is in here? We got a bunch of people today. That's just awesome. Welcome to everybody. Eating the mic was a common thing. Thomas says most of the mics in the 80s, pop filters were built in. Yes, that is so true. And yeah, we ate the mic totally in radio. Okay, so one of the nice things about these for a starter is that these things are really cheap. I mean, you can buy them for $5-7, depending on where you get them from. So this style is very inexpensive, and for people starting out, it can be a reasonably good choice. And then there are these. Now, I happen to have one of these here, and I'll try and hold it up. I'll move the mic out of the way for a sec. This is weird because it's at a strange angle, but okay, this has a set of rubber bands on the back, and I actually have done have added my own little rubber band on there to hold it, kind of tighten it up, because these things tend to get fatigued after a while, the rubber bands do, and they don't hold on as well. But the way that fits on there, get that so we can see it, is it just slips over it like this, and then you have this effect. The beauty of this kind is that it is so not in the way. It just wraps around right here, and it's totally not going to block your field of vision. So if I were to use a pop filter with a mesh type approach like this, this is the one that I prefer. And you can get these. They can be expensive or they can be cheap. I purchased one just for fun for like $5 from China or somewhere, it did not have the same amount of protection, I don't think, on it as this one does. This is a, what does it say? It's just called Pop Guard. Oh no, wait a second. Let me get this in the light. Wind Tech is this particular one. The one that's on the screen here is called a Telefunken. Many of those rubber bands can be replaced with hair ties. That is so true, Thomas. So there's another one, and that is my favorite of the different approaches that I've come across. When I first saw those, I thought, okay, that's for me. I love that. But then, there was this certain part of me that said, okay, I went for years without any kind of a pop filter, and that was when I was really close to the mic. So what is keeping me from finding a way to use the microphone, with a condenser, which is farther away, from using the microphone without a pop filter? And so there was this one day when I just, like Day of Liberation, I took the pop filter off and I did some recording, and lo and behold, I didn't have a problem. If you get in the right angle, you get too tight on it, if you have it pointed in the wrong way, sure, you're going to pick up a little breath. And occasionally I'll still get a pop P, but then again, I still got a pop P sometimes with this thing too. So a lot of it actually has more to do, I believe, with the way the mic is positioned than it does with, whether you have the filter on there or not. So let's just talk about the mic positioning for a little bit. Oh, by the way, when I had my Day of Liberation, my recordings from that day have been crisper and sharper. As much as we'd like to believe that these things don't block any sound, there's 2 layers of mesh on this, and there is going to be a small amount of difference in the sound. I can hear it. I was really asking myself, am I imagining this? But it was like, my mic just got better. That's the way it felt to me. I think I'm done with that for now, so I can just kind of get back. Oh, no, I actually am going to stick with it right here. It actually sounded better. I had more clarity. I think that the harmonics came through in my voice more. The overtones in my voice came through more. And so it was like, yippee. No, I'm liberated. I'm free. It's not to say everybody's going to be able to do that, but here's part of the thing. With a condenser mic, they say you should be, and I'm usually a little tighter than this, but you should be approximately that far away from the microphone. So what is that? In my own big hand case, it's probably 7 inches. Okay, that's pretty far. I like it about maybe 5 or 6. But condenser mics are so sensitive. I was just talking about that in my coaching session with the last guy, that this is a Neumann mic here, and so I've researched Neumanns a little bit, and I found this picture of Frank Sinatra. I mean, Neumanns go back. Condenser mics have been around for a while. The wonderful old U87 mic, which is still available and popular, and people have been posting even in the groups about them recently, was the one that they were using to record Frank Sinatra back in the early 1960s or whatever it was, or late 50s. And that microphone was mounted way the heck away from him. I mean, it was, 2 feet, 3 feet away. It was over his head and pointing down. And he was singing. He had his chin kind of tipped up, and he's singing. And I thought, wow, those things really were sensitive. So you don't have to be right on it. This distance is not an unreasonable distance to be away from a microphone like this. You will notice that as you get tighter on the mic, you get more round, more depth. It's the old proximity effect again that I was just talking about. So distance does have an impact on the tone of your voice. And if your voice needs a little more depth, that extra closeness can help, and maybe that's where the pop filter comes in. But I think that you've probably been listening, and I'm guessing that you probably are even kind of, you're thinking to yourself, okay, is this guy right or is he not? Is he not right? And so you're probably listening to hear if I have any popping going on. And I'm guessing that you have not heard me popping my P's at all. Pete, yes, that's true. Sinatra was in a nearly perfect room, and certainly that would help, but the mic would still have to be at the right distance based on the type of mic it is. And this particular mic is, and condenser mics in general, are much more sensitive and can mic at a greater distance than, for example, a dynamic, where the sound, the pickup, the realm, the circle of pickup is considerably smaller, and you need to be tighter in on the mic. So anyway, is it popping? Well, yes, it is popping if you get way, way close. Okay, I mean, it's an interesting comment here from Thomas about the publicity stills. You could be right, that maybe he was working it in closer than what it showed in a publicity shot. Again, condenser mics, and this is my point, do not have to be worked as tightly as a dynamic mic. And so the benefit that you get from that is that you don't have to be as close to it. And in being less near to it, the risk, depending on the position of the mic, of having popped P's and breath and plosives, as they call them, is going to be lower. All right, so with that said, again, it's all about the position of the mic. If you have it straight in front of your face, like this, got to move my camera. If I have it straight in front of my mouth like this and fairly tight in, and I start saying Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, you're going to probably pick up some pops of peas in there. So what I do is I lower it, and then I angle it up. It's still definitely picking up my voice full force, but the air is going to pass more over the top of it rather than going down into it like this. And that's a good point. Thomas says being further away not only helps with plosives, but also with mouth noises too. It's absolutely true. Again, a condenser is very sensitive though. So, it's going to it hears a lot of stuff. You're probably hearing my wife a couple rooms away doing dishes right now. So they're very sensitive, and the furnace is running. You're probably going to hear a little bit of that today too. But yeah, definitely distance helps. But the other part of it is that if you're farther away, at whatever distance the mic is set to record at, you're going to also have to compensate by bringing up the volume if it's recorded at a softer level. So one way or another, the relative volume of your voice to your mouth noise or whatever else you have is going to be the same. So there we go. This is basically what I wanted to say today. That is that you are not locked in, just as is true with so many things related to voiceover. You are not locked in to what the rest of the world is doing. Feel free to experiment, find your own path, try different things. You may discover that you don't necessarily need to have some of the things that other people in their videos and so forth, all of the YouTubers out there, say that you have or must have, or you got to go buy this and you got to go buy that. You may not have to, just depending on whether you're smart in the way you do stuff, and try blaze your own path here and there when it makes sense to. And so there we go. That is basically it today. If you'd like some help with coaching, I would absolutely love to have the opportunity to do that with you. I'm getting so many nice comments today that it's distracting me a little bit here, and I'll definitely get in and do some chat after this as well. But again, for coaching, just to send me a personal message through Facebook if you'd like. All of these videos, including today's, are being recorded and are being put up on a playlist at YouTube, and I'll be sharing that in the groups as well. Thanks again for today's session. I always enjoy doing these with you, and it is so fun to see the participants coming in and becoming a part of this with me. So thanks to Mark and Pete and Pat, and this darn thing won't let me scroll again, so we're having that problem. I can't see all of the messages that are there. But thanks to everybody who came in and joined us for today's session, and I will be back tomorrow with another one at 11 o'clock Central Time. Thank you.